Joe's lived here all his life, but he's not from around here. Street names are different, landmarks lie, and even money shows presidents he's never known. Some versions of Fort Wayne, Indiana are apocalyptical wastelands. Others harbor dark secrets. But when trouble strikes, Joe opens a trash can and tears a six-dimensional rift in reality. Inside lies a void where he glimpses the multiverse and rides unknown currents to another Fort Wayne, Indiana, hoping that this one may actually feel like home. With each crossing, his memories slip away. Only Nobuyuki, his shape-shifting Kitsune companion, remains constant, and they are hiding secrets about Joe's past that he may never remember. In a multiverse where the next trash can might lead to salvation or doom, Joe must find his way back before he forgets what home is. Middle-Aged Man in a Trash Can by William Bryan Johnson, published by Wild Rose Press, and available June 25th, 2025. Pre-orders are now available. And welcome to Tiki Man and the Viking podcast. This is the Viking. In the next several episodes, we will be talking with attendees and speakers who are at OWFI. Enjoy, and go read a book.
We're here with Kim Toscano at OWFI. She is on the faculty this year, and you've been discussing freelance writing.
Freelance writing and the business of writing, which can be applied to freelance or creative writing.
Now, you, though, have a background in television.
I do. So my education is horticulture and entomology, which is insects. A lot of people don't know that. And I hosted a gardening TV show for 7.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Called Oklahoma Gardening. It's on OWFI, airs throughout the state. It's still going. It's the longest running gardening show in the U.S., and we are celebrating 50 years this year. So we just did a documentary, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, did you go throughout the state in terms of stories and episodes, or was it just...
Most of it was produced. We had a studio garden. It's produced by Oklahoma State University, and so there's a studio garden there that we worked in. But we would travel. We called them regional tours, where we'd go to a different part of the state each year, which is important because Oklahoma is so incredibly diverse, right? I mean, we have palmettos growing, and alligators in the southeast, and then you go out to the panhandle and it's, rocks and cacti and such.
And that's what Thoreau said, I've done a great deal of traveling in my own backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to do. Now, while you were doing the television thing, were you also writing articles and freelancing that way?
I started, that's how I got my start. I would write a few magazine articles for different outlets, and I attended a conference about garden writing. I mean, it was Garden Communicators is the organization. So it's people who write books, magazines, do TV, podcasts, video work. And so it's great. You have your little tribe who's doing things, the exact same stuff you're doing. And so that's where I met so many of who became my future clients, and really built out my network. I think that's a big piece when you're freelance writing, having a network that you could tap into.
Exactly.
It's the same with OWFI, with the creative writing, right? I mean, not that fiction or nonfiction isn't creative.
Right,
I didn't mean it that way, but having a network of people that you can ask questions of and even collaborate with.
Now, okay, so when you're writing fiction, you may delve into a genre, and that's what separates you from other fiction writers. How do you distinguish yourself amongst those who are writing about horticulture and entomology?
That's a good question. Yeah. I think about it as having your niche. And so horticulture is a huge field. If you think about your own backyard, we have people who like to grow vegetables, people who like to have butterfly gardens, there's lawn care, and then people who live in different regions have to specialize on southwestern plants. So I actually talked about this in my class yesterday and used a friend who's a foraging expert, right? So she talks about collecting food, plants, mushrooms, things from your own backyard, from a local park. She used to live in New York City and would talk about foraging in Central Park. How cool is that?
Oh my God.
And so my niche is completely different. Actually, with my background on the television show, I can write about pretty much all aspects of horticulture,
Right.
which has helped me find some of my clients because I have that breadth. But then I can also focus in on things, and one of those is design. And I started creating illustrations that went, to support my articles, and that was a way that set me apart in the design world because I could then, I'm not just talking about designing a garden, I'm producing visuals that publishers can use.
What are your favorite type of articles to write?
Oh my goodness. Well, I love wildlife and gardening for wildlife, and I like the environment, sustainable gardening, and so I think I tend to enjoy those much more. I think my favorite thing is writing about something new, because something that I haven't done, because then I'm learning as I go.
Okay.
It's not that I'm writing something I have no concept of, but kind of pushing your knowledge base a little bit.
So if somebody were to want you to write an article about gardening in the Pacific Northwest, you know about gardening, but you might have to research what's involved with the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I'd have to do a little bit more. I know a lot of the plants that grow there. Many of those plants we can grow. There are overlaps. But yeah, you're digging a little bit deeper and expanding. It's fun to learn, right? And so
Absolutely.
You're kind of pushing your knowledge base. I've written a lot of articles about tomatoes, right? It's fun to learn about something new.
Yeah. So. How do you know enough of a knowledge base to actually write an article?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I think if somebody asks me about, to write something and I have no clue where to begin, I wouldn't touch it. I would recommend people in my network. Oh, you know what? Ellen would be great for that. You should reach out to them.
But what about somebody that has a lot of knowledge in a certain area, but maybe they just don't feel comfortable enough? How would they approach writing an article?
I would say write an article that maybe you're not intending to sell. We call them spec articles. Just write an article. Pick an outlet, right? Okay, I'm going to write about pet care. Maybe you're a pet enthusiast. I'm going to write about pet care for, cat care for Cat Fancy. I'm going to write an article. But you want to write a story, right? Not just a topic. You're not just writing about cats. You're writing
more of a slice of life story.
Yeah. How to handle cats when they scratch. I don't know. I'm not a pet expert. But write an article in the style of an outlet that you could imagine publishing with, right? And that gives you a little practice and I think some confidence, like, oh yeah, I can do this. And you learn about the style of that outlet. Of course there's like formatting and things like that, but you also learn about like the departments. If you look at a magazine or an online source, they have different categories.
Right.
And then you could kind of target down, oh, I could pitch this story and I would pitch it to this particular part of it.
And it's like if you have a publisher, there's the historical division and the romance division and then the fantasy division, and you want to make sure you're pitching to the right division.
Yeah, you do your research.
So there's some analogy. Now, you have talked about segueing into fiction writing.
Yeah.
Was that based on a desire to level out and balance the nonfiction, or was there just an impending Jones that I need
just
to
had
write?
this creative part in me that always searched for expression, and I went through a lot of, I learned to play the banjo. That wasn't it. I tried painting. That wasn't it. And at some point, it's like I can write.
Okay.
I've been doing it. My whole career has been pretty much writing. Even though I was on TV, I had to write the script, the show. And so I just started following that passion and really loved it. I started, my first project was a 5-book fantasy series. I started writing 20 years ago when my kids were little. And then I took a real job, right? Put that on hold.
That sounds more like familiar.
We'll tell you that story after the interview. But
And then I started learning about writing. I attended classes, I joined OWFI, and so I now have an outline for those 5 books, but I've written other pieces in between. You know, I think it's good to write one novel before you,
Right.
Unless you're Jim
Yes.
Butcher,
Yeah.
jump into the deep. No, he had a few before he started the
correct,
Dresden
correct,
series.
correct.
So.
Now, when you were asked to be on the faculty at OWFI this year, what was your intention? What did you want to bring to your sessions?
Right. Well, I have always treated OWFI as my fiction space, and last year there were some conversations, you know, just in the classes where I realized, oh, there's this set of knowledge I have because I've been working in freelance for 10 years that I can share with people.
Good.
And so some of that was the business side, you know, taxes, things like how do you
Right. If you sell articles, how do you do taxes?
how do you
on
do
it?
Right,
taxes?
right.
What can you deduct? And I'm like, oh, you can deduct your costs for being at this conference. And people looked at me funny. So I thought, okay, I can share some of this. And so I kind of had to switch hats. And you know, I've always treated this as fiction. There's plenty of nonfiction writers here. There's topics on nonfiction.
And whether it's fiction or nonfiction, there's plenty of aspects of writing that people don't account for. There's an attendee, Marty Ludlum, who's a lawyer, and he's presented in the past. He's been on the faculty
Yes.
bringing the legal aspect. We have Thea Rademacher from Flint Hills Publishing, who's talking about the legal aspects. The bottom line is, doesn't matter what you write, you got to know about your taxes.
Right.
You got to
Yeah.
know about all these different things.
Absolutely.
Period. You
Mhm.
know.
Your contracts, writing contracts. I think Marty's talked about that
Yes,
to
yes.
some degree. I actually worked with him to incorporate my business. He every year he offers this in the Basket Wars. It's, you know,
Mini
incorporate your
consult or
business with
something.
him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so I bid on it last year because I've been wrangling with that. Do I do this? Do I not? And I'm like, okay. And I bid on it and won. And
See, and that's the benefit. That's another benefit of coming to a conference. Okay, so
yeah.
this is what you're bringing. When the weekend is over, what do you hope to take from having been here on the faculty?
As a faculty member, I think one of the reasons I wanted to speak here is because I've only ever presented on gardening.
Mhm.
Right? You know, I have this huge background in horticulture, well, and insects. I've taught master gardener classes about entomology and
Whoa.
things like that,
Mhm.
but I've never spoken about writing, and so I wanted to kind of get some experience with that. You know, I hope to publish my fantasy work
Mhm.
and, you know, someday speak about fiction writing, freelance writing, either one, but just to get experience presenting in a different field. I think.
That is a sense of personal satisfaction that you know, hey, I got what it takes to talk about this beyond this,
Yes.
and knowing that it's you can teach a dog new tricks. I don't say old because I don't want to imply anything to her, of course.
What's your favorite bug?
My favorite bug is, that's funny. I think there's this wasp.
Mhm.
It's called cuckoo wasp, and it's like metallic green. Wasps are really cool. And maybe my second would be the tiger beetle,
Okay.
and they are also metallic green. Apparently, I just like metallic green.
Okay,
Yeah,
well
it's
that's
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Dragons.
And just to let you know, I'm arachnophobic, so I mean, I don't.
Cave spiders.
Yeah.
Little cave crickets. I love those things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had some in our house, and I was showing kids, especially the ones that are afraid of spiders, hey, this is a cave cricket. It's like a mix between a spider and a cricket, and they do jump.
Mm-hmm.
I like ladybugs. I just haven't.
Ladybugs
I'm
are
just
good.
endeared to them.
We used to do an insect zoo, like an insect petting zoo
Mhm.
when
Oh,
I was in
yeah.
grad school. And so like the public would come, and the first time I volunteered with it, I came in the middle and there were only 2 stations open. The hissing cockroach and the tarantula. So you hate spiders, I hate cockroaches. So I'm like, I'll hold that tarantula, no problem.
We'd be on
Get
the
the little needle for her in your hand. You know,
We'd be on the opposite side of the room saying, "You stay over there." No, you stay over there. That's fine. That's fine.
Where can people find you online?
I have a website, www.kimtoscano.com, but my writing is on a lot of popular outlets like southernliving.com, finegardening.com. I do have some magazine publications as well, but that's, the easy place to find my work.
And what about the fiction work? When will it be ready? When you're going to be pitching? What's happening?
In the pitching stage for, it's a
okay.
historical fantasy
Okay.
set in Venice in the 1600s.
Whoa.
A witch, a musician, and a gondolier. I had a lot of fun with this. And so right now I actually have, I think, 4 agents who've requested the full manuscript.
Good.
So that's really exciting.
Well, you make sure that you let us know, and we will
I
let
know,
any
I will.
listeners know about that as well, too.
In 1600s, that's the plague time.
That's it's set during one of the big plague outbreaks in Venice.
That probably would have been COVID-1.
Right.
No, this is bubonic.
Oh, okay.
It was
Bubonic.
really scary, yeah.
Yeah. I think a third of the population, something like that, died in that outbreak in Venice.
And they found that a lot of the people that have survived, that their genes are slightly altered than normal people. That they think that there's a gene that helped them survive.
That's really interesting. So I deal with a witch in it. So she's creating, basically, like, you've heard of thieves' oil.
Yes.
Thieves' oil was a mixture of herbs that people thought kept the plague away, and what it did is probably deterred fleas, which carried the plague. Based on the components of what's in it.
There's a method to madness.
There is. There's a reason for things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's been fun. So my main character is a witch, but she does a lot of like herbal stuff. So I've been able to tap into my horticulture background.
There you go.
And bring that forward in my fiction writing. I think most of my pieces have some, at least nature is infused in it.
Do you have a name for this book?
Songs of the Dead. That's my working title.
Nice.
Oh.
Love to have you back on when that gets published.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to come back.
All right. And as we end every podcast,
we end every podcast with the same expression:
read a book.
Absolutely.
Tim
Or an
Toscano.
article.
Or an article. There you go.
Kim Toscano, thank you for being with us.
You are so welcome. Thanks for having me.
You got it.
Tiki Man and the Viking Podcast brought to you by Rumination of Thunder Media. The following intro and outro music was used for this media project. The music Find Them by Alexander Nakrata. Free download from filmmusic.io. License Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International.